The Royal New Zealand Navy is navigating several structural challenges relating to aging equipment, staff shortages, and a failure to keep pace with naval technology. The New Zealand Defence Force is embarking on an ambitious Maritime Fleet Renewal program over the next 2 decades. At the heart of the challenge is simply the lack of resources. New Zealand's exclusive economic zone covers approximately 4 million square kilometers, while its search and rescue region extends across 30 million square kilometers of ocean. The Royal New Zealand Navy is tasked with securing an enormous maritime domain stretching from the Pacific Island nations to the frozen reaches of the Southern Ocean, but must carry out these missions with a total fleet of just 8 ships. This operational strain is compounded by a crewing crisis. Severe staff shortages and a long-running problem with personnel retention have frequently forced the Navy to tie up operational vessels at the wharf, effectively hollowed out from within by a lack of qualified sailors. This human capital shortfall intersects with technical obsolescence across the fleet. Ship hulls are growing older, onboard systems are struggling to keep pace with rapid technological developments, and the naval helicopters are rapidly approaching the end of their service life. On shore, the logistical reality is equally severe. The Devonport Naval Base in Auckland features aging infrastructure that requires substantial modernization to adequately support warships. The lack of any meaningful sea lift capability constrains New Zealand's capacity for force projection, leaving the country heavily reliant on partners to sustain a presence far from home. Let us turn to the current force composition of the RNZN, the current gaps in this composition, and the modernization program aimed at addressing these gaps and future-proof the Navy. The core of the nation's surface combat fleet is the 2 Anzac frigates, the HMNZS Te Kaha and Te Mana. Originally a joint development project with Australia in the late 1980s and early 1990s, these platforms have served as the principal means of traditional naval power for New Zealand. They feature a baseline capability to conduct air defense, surface combat, and anti-submarine operations. Through a comprehensive frigate upgrade completed in the early 2020s, both vessels received modern combat management systems, better radars, and the Sea Scepter air defense missile system to bolster their survivability. Despite these extensive upgrades, the physical hulls and mechanical machinery are steadily aging. Designed for a 30-year operational lifespan, the frigates are fast approaching their definitive retirement window, which is slated for the mid-2030s. The logistical difficulty and expenses of keeping these warships running will only grow more acute over the next decade. This challenge is highlighted by the fact that the Royal Australian Navy, which co-developed the class, is already beginning to phase out its own Anzacs, a move that will steadily shrink the infrastructure, spare parts, and technical support available for these ships. The secondary layer of maritime patrol is handled by 2 distinct tiers of patrol craft, starting with the Protector-class offshore patrol vessel, the Otago and the Wellington. These platforms fill the operational gap between the heavy combatants and light coastal vessels. They possess a high degree of ice strengthening in their hulls, which allows them to venture safely into the volatile waters of the Southern Ocean to police illegal fishing and support scientific research around Antarctica. They feature a generous range and a long patrol endurance, enabling them to conduct persistent missions across the vast remote economic zones of the Southwest Pacific. Yet, the persistent personnel shortage has struck this part of the Navy with a severe impact. At various points over the last few years, the Navy has been forced to park up these highly capable ships, including the Otago, in a state of inactivity simply because there were not enough qualified technicians, engineers, and sailors available to safely deploy them to sea. The domestic human resource crisis had an even greater impact on the lower tier of the patrol force, the Lake-class inshore patrol vessels. Originally comprising 4 units, these light craft were designed for low-intensity coastal missions. They were built to conduct border protection, custom patrols, biosecurity enforcement, and search and rescue missions closer to the New Zealand coastline. Because they lack the ice-strengthened hulls, large fuel reserves, and superior seakeeping of the larger offshore patrol vessels, their operational utility is strictly confined to benign sea states and domestic waters. The long-running retention problems came to a head in 2019 when the Navy officially decommissioned 2 of these vessels from active service due to a lack of available crews. These idle hulls were subsequently sold to the Irish Naval Service, leaving only the Taupo and the Hawea flying the New Zealand flag. The reduction of this class severely concentrated the Navy's domestic patrol burden onto a handful of surviving boats. The logistics backbone that supports the fleet outside local waters is provided by 2 large support platforms, the HMNZS Aotearoa and the Canterbury. As a modern fleet replenishment oiler, the Aotearoa is the Navy's largest vessel by far. It provides aviation fuel, marine diesel, and fresh water to domestic ships and international partners, serving as a vital force multiplier that extends the operational range of any task group it accompanies. The vessel is also heavily strengthened to allow it to push deep into Antarctic waters to resupply isolated research stations. Alongside the tanker operates the HMNZS Canterbury, a logistics transport vessel configured primarily for sea lift. It features an expansive cargo deck capable of transporting heavy vehicles, military equipment, and hundreds of personnel to support humanitarian assistance and disaster relief missions across the South Pacific. However, the Canterbury has built-in operational limitations. It lacks a well deck, meaning it cannot float out heavy landing craft from inside the ship's hull. Instead, it must rely entirely on external cranes to lower landing craft into the sea, a mechanical process that can only be safely executed in highly benign, calm conditions. It's definitely not an amphibious warfare ship. Recognizing that 7 out of its 8 current ships will hit the absolute limit of their lifespan by the mid-2030s, the government has launched the comprehensive Maritime Fleet Renewal program. This effort represents a monumental, once-in-a-generation opportunity to completely transform the naval architecture of New Zealand over the next 2 decades. Rather than merely replacing retired ships on a like-for-like basis, the initiative seeks to establish a highly integrated and capable fleet that heavily emphasizes technological commonality. Operating 5 distinct classes of ships across an 8-ship fleet has created immense friction, driving up maintenance costs and preventing the flexible assignment of sailors to ships. The new fleet architecture intends to enforce strict commonality across hulls, propulsion machinery, and electronic systems to radically simplify both the maintenance and the personnel training pipelines. In theory, if this drive is successful, any New Zealand Navy sailor should be able to serve effectively on any ship in the Navy. A pivotal element of the future transformation involves the integration of uncrewed systems. While traditional crewed warships will still form the core of the future fleet, the Navy is pivoting towards autonomous and remotely operated vehicles to act as persistent eyes and ears across its massive area of responsibility. Funding allocation have prioritized two specific streams of uncrewed aerial vehicles. The first stream focuses on long-duration, land-based surveillance aircraft designed to monitor the vast expanses of the South Pacific. The second stream involves the highly specialized, polar-capable drones built to deploy directly from the decks of Navy ships to scout ahead through the harsh Southern Ocean. By utilizing these autonomous sensors to handle routine, long-range intelligence gathering, the Navy can drastically amplify its situational awareness without requiring a massive expansion in ships or personnel numbers. To solve the fundamental issue of staffing, the Navy is redesigning its training architecture through the adoption of the Ship Zero concept. This model seeks to shift a massive portion of traditional hands-on training away from operational ships and relocate it entirely into advanced simulation-based training facilities located on land. By replicating the control rooms on ships, propulsion systems, and combat systems in a digital, land-based environment, the Navy can fully train and certify personnel without burning fuel or putting wear and tear on the operational fleet. This concept ensures that when a sailor finally steps aboard an active warship, they are already fully competent, reducing the training burden on active ships. The most critical and expensive decision in the renewal program centers on the frigate replacement project. To maintain a credible combat capability and ensure interoperability with key partners, New Zealand has entered into close discussions with Australia, Japan, and the UK. Sometime in the late 2020s, the government will choose between two international designs to replace the aging Anzac class. The first option is the Japanese-designed Mogami class frigate, which features a highly compact, stealthy hull form and a heavily automated control system that requires a much smaller crew to operate than the Anzacs. The second option is the UK's Type 31 frigate, a larger, more flexible platform designed from the outset for modularity. Partnering directly with either the Royal Australian Navy, who has chosen the Mogami, or the UK Royal Navy on these builds will allow New Zealand to leverage massive economies of scale, gain access to key facilities and upgrades, and secure a long-term technical support network. Simultaneously, the Navy must address its deteriorating naval aviation capabilities by replacing the common SH-2G Sea Sprite maritime helicopters. These legacy aircraft are fast reaching the end of their operational lives, presenting a severe capability bottleneck. To resolve this, New Zealand is moving to acquire the Sikorsky MH-60R Seahawk as its next naval helicopter. The adoption of the Seahawk will deliver a massive enhancement in anti-submarine warfare, surface search, and electronic warfare capabilities. Crucially, because the Seahawk is the standard maritime helicopter of the Royal Australian Navy, its introduction will grant New Zealand greater logistical commonality and tactical alignment with its key ally during joint operations. The transformation strategy is also prompting a fundamental debate over future force projection. Specifically, whether the replacement for the HMNZS Canterbury should feature a built-in well deck. A well deck is a large, lower-level hangar for vehicles that can be flooded with water while the ship is underway, allowing heavy amphibious landing craft to float directly out of the stern of the vessel. The tactical benefits of this capability are immense. It completely removes the dangerous reliance on flimsy shipboard cranes, allowing the Navy to safely launch and recover heavy vehicles, equipment, and large quantities of humanitarian supplies, even in rough, open sea conditions. It also provides a small baseline of amphibious warfare capacity. This capability would fundamentally elevate New Zealand's independent capacity to respond to complex natural disasters and security crises across the Pacific Ocean. None of these future ships or advanced technologies can be sustained without a thorough overhaul of physical infrastructure and logistics on land. The Maritime Fleet Renewal program is therefore tightly coupled with a major modernization of Devonport Naval Base. The structural upgrade will deliver modernized facilities, infrastructure, and highly secure operational command spaces designed to handle the complex data networks required by modern warships. The Navy is also exploring logistical synergies with commercial energy facilities to build resilience into its fuel and supply networks. The Royal New Zealand Navy stands at a critical juncture, where tough choices must be made. Confronted by severe personnel shortages, a huge operational domain, and decaying platforms, the current framework is unsustainable. However, the Maritime Fleet Renewal program offers a transformative blueprint. By prioritizing commonality, integrating autonomous systems, and adopting the land-based training model, the Navy is addressing its deep personnel crisis. Furthermore, acquiring advanced Seahawk helicopters, next-generation frigates, and upgrading the Devonport infrastructure will fill critical capability gaps. The sweeping modernization has the potential to eliminate current challenges and enhance regional partnerships. The future fleet is expected to enable a wide range of missions, including maritime security patrols, combat operations, sea lift, assistance to other governments, while also supporting humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. The Maritime Fleet Renewal program is therefore a vital strategic investment. If successful, it will provide New Zealand with a resilient and capable naval force for the next 4 decades.